Hi, everyone. Today we're going to talk about hot comics in the current market. And I have some great ideas. Well, I have thoughts. I'd like to share some thoughts with you. First of all, I'm a comic reseller. Me and my daughter, we sell comic books every day, just about.
Basically.
And we have comics for sale every day at different places. One of the places is on Instagram every Monday night at 5 p.m. Pacific time. We have a claim sale. It's our premier claim sale for comics. So if you want to check out our best stuff, we'll do that every Monday. And then we sell comics other places.
If you're not into the claim sale thing, we also do buy it nows on Instagram, so you can check out all the things that we list over there. And then we also do auctions over on Whatnot. We've been doing auctions every Thursday and Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, but then we'll also just pop up anytime throughout the week when we feel like it. Tons of back issues, low price runs. We'll do bundles, tons of different stuff over there.
Stuff we don't sell on Monday or on Instagram. So we have a lot of books.
If you use the link that's going to be in our description, you can get $15 off your first purchase if you're first signing up for Whatnot. Which is really
Off of any purchase on Whatnot.
Anywhere, not just
Let's
us.
get to the topic. So, if you watch YouTube, you're going to see all the time, almost daily, there's a top 10 list. People talk about hot comic books. I stay away from hot books. I really do. I mean, if I have those books, that's great. People are more interested in those books now than they were yesterday. Well, that's not true either. So whenever someone says a book is hot, what they're talking about is they're using sales for a period of time, and that's the result. It's kind of like telling you the result of a horse race. So if number 3 won, everyone's telling you number 3 was a great horse. You following that? So 115 people bet on number 3. If you think that you are going to be the 116th person, well, the gate's closed. And a lot of times the price, hey man, this is a hot book and it's $5 right now. You go out and it's $50 because no one wants to sell it for $5 because it's hot, because it was on YouTube. You saw it. There's a myriad of ways that people look at information and try to get money out of it. One of the things I know is that been really important for me to refine how I look at books and educate myself to the best of my ability to know the most I can so I can make educated decisions on what I buy. And one of those decisions I made a long time ago is don't buy hot. Stay away from hot. Have patience. You'll be able to get a book for much less when it's not in high demand. There's no such thing as a book that does not go down as well as go up. There's been no book on a trajectory straight up. All books, they go up, they go down a little.
It's a roller coaster.
It is. If you spend a lot of money on comic books, there is a hope for a lot of people that do that at some point, if they decide to sell some of those books to add some other books to their collection and they don't want to use their other resources for, that would be great. If you spend, let's say, and side note, let's say you're buying only pre-code 1955 books, and they're all rare. I mean, everything you're buying, there's 5 copies known to exist. There's 3 graded copies. They're all popular. You're spending no less than $300 on a book. And that's even not in grade. So let's say you're spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on books. I can assure you that is going to be part of your wealth. I mean, that is part of your savings. That is part of your portfolio. And you're not thinking that, hey, when I die, I don't care what people do. You care, You're either going to have a plan to sell them before, whatever happens to us, or you're going to will them to somebody, but they're an asset. So to make light of the fact that comic books have value or act like you're not supposed to invest in them, man, when you spend a lot of money on them, you did invest in them. What are you going to do now? So in that wide world of spending a lot of money on books, I like to put out information that I think about. And one of those things is chasing the same book over and over again is boring. So I'll give you an example. Throw up a copy of Wolverine Limited Series number 1. Throw up a copy of Amazing Spider-Man 300. Throw up a copy of Amazing Spider-Man 129. Throw up a copy of Hulk 340.
Ever heard of them?
If I never see these books again, I'm okay with that. They're great. And I can throw up a copy of Captain America 110.
Well, these are some people's grails, which is fair.
I get it.
Super fair, because they're great books.
I've been around comic books for decades. So I took a 20-year break, right? And I was really into it before that break. I was one of the first customers of CGC, and I slabbed books and sold books on eBay in the beginning. All of that stuff I took a 20-year break. I've been back for 5 years. The comic book market has done nothing but change since I got back. It has not had one easy year yet. It's been like this, right? So here's what I want to bring up today. People that buy from me and my customers know I do not aim for hot books. I'll bring books to my claim sales that are not hot, that are hot. They just happen to be in the landing pattern of what I'm bringing. I'm not trying to capitalize on books. That's really not what I do. I specialize in bronze and copper. So if it's in the bronze and copper realm, chances are I've either had it, I have it in storage, I'm looking for it because it's what I collect the most. So today I'm going to show you some keys that you may not know about, and you might not care about them after I get done showing them to you. But I think they're cool, and I've found that other people do think these books are cool. So let's get right into it. These are keys that are not hot. I repeat, these are cold keys, but I'm going to tell you that they sell. People are interested in them, and they all have some kind of cool nuance. And before I go into the first book, we buy collections. We have information in the description. If you're looking to sell your comic book collection, please think of us. Thanks. Okay. I want to talk about a character. It's funny, when I came back to the hobby 5 years ago, I looked at some series that when I left over the 20-year period, there were some genres that had cooled down. One of them was war comics. When I was growing up, a child of the 70s, war comics were super popular. If you were a kid in my age group, everyone read war comics. And when I came back, it's like it's just not in vogue anymore. What I found out as a comic reseller is they actually are in vogue, just not to the wide market. But the right war books still always sell, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
And Rachel does not like war books, and for probably really obvious reasons.
I like the war books that are scary.
Like what?
Like Weird War Tales #1. I like that cover.
So as long as there's a horror cover, you don't mind if it's
I don't mind. Or dinosaurs. I don't mind those things.
Nice
I
dinosaur.
wouldn't buy one to collect
No.
for me. But I understand the people that want to.
Well, I still like war books. Not all war books. I like gray tone covers and mostly DC stuff. Our first pick for the day is a war book. If you guys are familiar with Sergeant Rock, he was a very popular character, and he first showed up, I think, in Our Army at War 81 in a cameo, but it wasn't until Our Army at War 83 that he made his first full appearance, and that book is very expensive, incredibly hard to find. Chances are you're not going to see a copy very often. When you do see a copy, it's going to be really low grade, and chances are the person watching this right now is not even interested in it. 1 in 500 people might even have piqued their interest even a little. They're cool once you get to know what they are and like all the first that happened there. And
So a very good copy recently sold for $3,000. In 2023, a very fine sold for $13,200.
yeah, and that's high grade for that particular book because people read those.
We
man.
got a very good's going for $3,000. Like,
They read those books over and over and over, and they were cool and they were fun and they're fantastic. So the number one book I have here is that character's first solo. He went for years and did not have his own title. Our Army at War 301 was the last issue of Our Army at War. Our Army at War 302 turned into Sergeant Rock, but it kept the numbering, so it's a little bit deceptive. So it's Sergeant Rock 302, which is actually Sergeant Rock #1.
which a lot of series have done that.
A lot of series.
Like
Tarzan,
yeah.
so many different series, and other series we're going to talk about here. So that book is an under-the-radar book. If you're in my age group and you collect war books, you know it. But if you don't, it's like, oh, I didn't know that. And by the way, they don't show up a lot.
Yeah, there's only 55 on the census.
Yeah, it's graded copies. So one of the things about me telling you this and trying to put this information out there is it's great to educate people. It'd be great if you ran into this in a dollar box somewhere because someone didn't know that. It doesn't say #1 on it. Somebody could just throw it in a box and not know it. This book's expensive, especially in grade. What are they going for in grade?
A 9.8 Murphy Anderson pedigree sold for $400.
And that's 5 years ago. So these are great. There was a series that had all Sergeant Rock, and then they went to their own series and started renumbering and all. So if you can find any of those after 302, 303, 304, 305 in a box, grab them. They're cool books. They're not hot, but they're still key. If you like war, know that you got something that's kind of hard to find and other people want. And that's one of the points I'm making. You don't have to go after hot books. You just have to know what books are out there. And if you happen to find one or you happen to like that, something else to look for. So that's the first book. Let's talk about another. There's a lot of fans of Scooby-Doo. And let me tell you, Scooby-Doo #1 came out in 1970, Gold Key. That book is expensive. It's been expensive for a long time. It's been in demand for a long time, right in the heart of the Bronze Age. And by the way, I didn't say this about that Army at War, the Sergeant Rock number 302. I had a copy. I sold it to a friend of mine because I sell comics. And I'm so happy he got those copies because they were nice, you know. Or else I think I have a copy of almost every book I'm talking about except that.
Yeah.
Just about every book.
But we did once.
Yeah, I had one a month ago. You know, I just sold it. So Scooby-Doo #1 is really, I mean, it's a very expensive book, and even in mid-grade, they're really, really pricey. But you might be a fan, but you might want to have a nice copy of Scooby-Doo. There's actually another Scooby-Doo that's kind of hard to find and a little bit pricey, and that is Scooby-Doo #1 from 1995 by Archie. So this is a copy of that book, and this is a newsstand edition, by the way. This came out in 1995. By halfway through the year last year, 9/8 of this sold for $275, and it was direct. So a copy like this, if it comes out 9/8, and it's a super high-grade copy, probably a $400 book. So if you were to see this book in a box somewhere, pick it up. Because it's sought after. It is the #1. I don't know. I think the series is still going. My grandson, I let him run around a comic book store, and after 15 minutes of looking at books, I said, "What do you want?" He said, "I want Scooby-Doo, Papa." So I mean, it's still a popular title. So there's another
Even
one
for a 6-year-old.
you may not have known about. And this one, unlike the other one, has Scrappy. You know, if you're of the next generation.
I mean, who really likes Scrappy-Doo?
You know, Rachel and I did an episode 2 years ago about Starman because there was some really cool information.
I went down a rabbit hole about Starman. I'll link it right here.
Yeah, it was fun, right? That was a fun episode.
Yeah.
So why don't you talk about the first appearance of Starman and some in that book and value and stuff?
The first appearance of Starman, who was Ted Knight, was in Adventure Comics 81. And this story was so funny.
Not this Ted Knight. Carry on.
You did that in the last video too, and I still don't know who you're talking about. A 5.0 copy of this sold for $5,800, which I get.
Yeah, I mean,
it's an early adventure too, like really early.
It is. This is a character that's had a lot of iterations. There was a long-running DC series that came out in the 80s. So is there any Starman that you would ever be interested in? So let's show this book.
This is Adventure Comics 467. First appearance of Starman, who is Prince Gavin.
Yeah, so this sold last year in 9/8 for $200. It's one of those books. If you see it out there, once again, if you see it out there, it's not hot. It's not one of those things that, oh man, did you see they had it for? And this kind of stuff I love, you know. I don't go after books. I know 10 people that want to buy this. One of the things about specializing in bronze and copper is that I'm always looking for all bronze and copper books in high grade. Back issues. I don't care. It's like, I don't care if they're popular, if they're hot, if they're Charlton, if they're Dell, if they're Gold Key, if they're cold as ice, if they're hot as fire. If they're hot, I stay away from them and I wait. And if they're cold, yeah, I'm all over them because I love this stuff. But anyway, this is a double key
if they're
too.
high grade.
This is also
Caveat.
this is the first Starman, but it's also a Ditko cover. It's from 1986. Cool book. Got Plastic Man in it as well, who's really cold. I mean, but anyway, there's another key that you might not have known about. And in the world of small keys, in a 9/8, that's worth a couple $100. And it's not the kind of book that was printed 20 years ago. I mean, this book is like 40 years old. So Mystery in Space #1 came out in 1951. It ran till 1966 as a series. I've always liked them. There's lots of cool characters. There was also some really cool non-superhero and superhero stuff going on there, and some great artists. We'll show a few covers here. So there's a book that is really underappreciated that I do appreciate. Now, there were some reprints and some other things that came out that are pretty popular in the 70s, but I want to show this book in particular. This is Mystery in Space 111. This is a near mint raw copy. This book is not valuable. Mostly because I don't think anyone knows what it is. I really don't. I don't think people are tracking on it. I saw a slab sell for 20 or $30. This is the first new issue since 1966. It came out in 1967. Once again, it's a numbering issue. It's 111. I don't think it's noted most places that this is the first reissue.
Oh, okay.
And that might be one of the issues with it.
Well, in the #1 from the 50s, it sold in 2019 for $10,000. So, like, if you can get a near mint of this for $50, that's great.
Yeah, I saw one that was a $50 book. And here's the deal. So I have this, and it's a near mint raw copy. And I'm not going to sell it. I'm just going to hold it. Not because I'm waiting for it to go up. Because first of all, I'll keep it. I mean, this book is old. It's a '70s book that is a number one. Joe Kubert art. A lot of these were cover swipes going back from pre-code stuff or cover themes anyway. Cool book for you to keep your eye out for. I wouldn't be surprised if you did find one of these in a dollar bin. Know what you're looking at. You're looking at the first reissuance of Mystery in Space after 11 years. So Black Hawk debuted in Military Comics #1 in 1941. So this team had been around since World War II. They're around for a long time. So the series ended in 1977, and it continued to just get like low publication, low readership. It wasn't really popular with collectors. It never was. Now, it's so funny at this stage in my collecting, I look at some Black Hawk covers and they're really cool, just the covers. So they ended on issue 250 in 1977. In 1981, they came out with issue 251. This is the first Black Hawk. And then not long after this, they relaunched Black Hawk with Black Hawk 1. So here's one of those little keys that you might find around that it's not listed as a #1. That's a cool book, and it's not expensive. It really isn't, but it's still a key book that had a hiatus that's worth having if you pick it up. This is a fun one. New Teen Titans, George Perez, really popular series at the time. Really cool stories, a lot of keys going on. And one of the things that happened in that series, they resurrected Doom Patrol, who was killed off in Doom Patrol issue 121. The whole team was killed. That was in 1968. New Teen Titans 13 came out in 1981, and it was a continuation of that story. Oh. That is just a weird thing. So here comes Robot Man. And by the way, neat side point, Robot Man is the only original existing member in Doom Patrol today.
Everyone else is dead. They almost killed them all off.
This is Robot Man coming back, and it's a great book, and it's actually a little bit valuable, not an expensive book, but if you do see this book, keep in mind this is the reintroduction of Robot Man, and also it ties together two stories over a decade and a half. So that's a cool book. So there's another one to keep your eye out for. And anyone who's ever seen Guardians of the Galaxy, you might be a huge Nebula fan. I know I was. Most people who watch Marvel movies really liked Guardians of the Galaxies, and all of them. They were all really great movies. And one thing about Nebula is that she wasn't always a cyborg. So when did she become a cyborg? I wonder if you already know that. Well, she became a cyborg in the Silver Surfer Volume 3 series, which, by the way, is a series I've been eyeballing for years because of the art, because of the story arcs, really cool Thanos story arcs, and that is the place that Nebula became a cyborg. So if you guys remember, her first appearance was in Avengers, but she became a cyborg in issue number 72. This is one of the ones that does not say that. If you had a slab of this, it won't say it on the slab. This book's a little expensive. People do know it, and there's a bunch of these slabbed. Cool book, though, and cool storyline. So what happens here is over like 5 issues, she has the procedure done, and in this issue, she gets unveiled as a cyborg. So if you're a big fan of Guardians of the Galaxy or Nebula, this is kind of a must-have. Just one of those keys that you might see out there. I think people are a little more knowledgeable about this one. Anyway, that's one to keep your eye out for. Last one. So if you guys are into short-run series, if you did like Wolverine Limited series, if you like the Punisher Limited series, DC had tons of limited series. You know, the Transformers was a limited series. It just happened to be a little longer than the others. If you don't mind showing that book.
This is Transformers 80.
And it is part 80 of a 4-part limited series. So I don't know if you guys, if you're not a Transformers fan, you probably are not familiar with this book. This is the last issue of Transformers. And it's a joke because it started off as a limited series and it just kept going. Popular with fans. Series remains popular today. This particular issue is hard to get, especially hard to get in grade. So this is an expensive book. And like I said, the print run on this was pretty low at the end. So if you ever see this book out there just floating around, you might want to grab it because it's cool. Is it hot? It's not cold. I mean, if you see it out there, I don't think you're going to be able to get it for $5 unless the person doesn't know what they have, but it's pretty cool too. So there you have it. There's some books that are not hot, but they're keys. Here's the deal. If a book's hot that you want, shake it off, go find some cold keys, and then when that book gets into the cold category, then chase that book. You'll save some money, right? And later on, whenever you decide that you need to sell some books to get other books, or you want to really make sure that you're investing smart money into your collection, you'll have a better collection in the long run. I want to show some books before we leave, real quick.
All right.
Some books that I think are cool, that I think you guys will also think's cool. There's this series, Tough Ghost, starring Spooky, has some of the coolest covers, and this is one of them. And these are really nice presenting copies. This is number 28. Spooky has scared the bones out of this fish. So what's funny about this, these are really for kids. And it's like, this is I don't know if that's really that PC anymore, is it?
I don't know.
And this is probably
This one's not.
the premier, outside the number one. This is probably the most expensive. I mean, this is an expensive book. And this is the number 2, yeah? And he's smoking a cigar, and even a ghost gets jacked up by that. You got a big old fat stogie on the ground. He's turning green smoke. Hard book to get in grade at all. This is my favorite, okay? First time I saw this book, I'm like, what is happening right now? This is Tough Ghost number 10. He scared the skin right off this cat. Want to talk about not politically correct, but I love that. So I love books like this. And that's one thing about like looking around at comics, maybe things you don't collect, kind of staying aware of books, because when I see something like that, I want this book in grade. Now, I think this one has a pop staple, but it's still probably the highest grade copy I've seen. These things are tore up from the floor. Every time I see them, they're just ripped up. If you found an 8.0 of this, it would probably be $150. They're expensive in grade. So, there's no hidden corners where like something like this is $10 in a file copy, because that cover is it's good. If you go look at Tough Ghosts, I just showed you the best covers they have. They have a couple of monster covers that are cool. So sometimes it's fun just to go through covers, but I think I've said enough.
All right, so this is the section where we answer your questions, and it's called
Mail Call.
All right, this is from X-Men 1 Bishop. What's your take on overseas variants? A lot of them are low print runs that can go for big money.
Overseas variants. I assume that they're talking about just
like Australian price variants that have low print runs and things like that.
My limited experience with them is that Canadian price variants from the 90s seem to be very popular. There are some that are popular because they're on really cool key comics and they're cheaper. They're never more expensive. I think that when it comes to American comic books, the most popular version of an American comic book would be the original American comic version. The exception is, like I said, the Canadian price variants that fetch almost as much as the regional price variants did in the 70s, because they are only a small fraction of the copies out there. Besides that, I do like them. I like some Australian horror books because they were different and they were reprinted and they were they're different colors and they're different sizes. They're magazine size, but it's a niche part of the comic, the comic sphere.
Supercracker asked, what brand of tack iron do you use? I was going to say, we have a link down below for our Amazon store with all of our pressing stuff that we use.
Look below, because I forget. It's the
same one that we still use, the one that's in there.
I used to, but I want to say this, Hanger 9 had a non-digital tack iron that was the best one I ever used, and they stopped using them. They had a dial instead of a button, and I could really get the temperature perfect. I still use the same brand, so I do know what they are.
There you go. But it's also linked down below.
Yeah, if you can ever find a used version of that's not digital, grab it. I threw mine away, and what a mistake that was. I didn't know they'd stop making them, and I would have brought it to someone and had them fix it. Anyway.
Eric asked, are you going to HeroesCon this year?
Yes, I am.
I knew the answer to that. And then finally, Glass Memory asked, what is a good method of organizing your collection? They said that they are getting a little overwhelmed by their stuff and they need a spreadsheet.
Well, Rachel is a good method. We have CLZ.
Once you get to the amount of books we have, I don't know the answer.
Yeah. So we have CLZ. We have a good space. I have really good, I've invested a lot of money in racks that are could hold 10,000 pounds. So we use CLZ up to about 50,000 books, 45,000 books. After that, we get so many books in that it's hard for us to tabulate what we got in.
But if you got like a couple thousand books, I mean, as long as they're alphabetized, you can easily add them to CLZ, which is scanning the barcode. It's very easy to use.
CLZ is a software, and there's other softwares out there. So Cover Price has a software too. A little more work intensive, or it was at one time. I think you can scan your books in now. Hip Comics has a scan software that people like. There's lots of ways you can do it. Recommend you do it. Definitely. I know that as a comic reseller, I see people walk up all the time with
a little piece of paper
with a written list. Do you have X-Men 186? I mean, all the time. So I think people like notating it the way they like it. But for you, I would just kind of start doing some research on what software you find out there that fits your budget, your time restraints. I'm liking these picture apps that you take a picture and it puts it, and that's Hip Comics. So somebody sent me their Hip Comics. The downside is I didn't have Hip Comics, so I had to download the app. And then the person receiving that information has to go through the learning curve to figure it out. So anyway, that's it.
That's all the questions.
Thanks, everyone. See you next time. 2 weeks in a row with content. We're on a roll.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and on Whatnot. And we'll see you next time. Bye.